the interpreter listens to the courtroom PA system. The interpretation is carried by way of an infrared beam from a control box to a small headset worn by the defendant. It's the same principle as a remote control for a television set. Another advantage of such equipment is that the interpreter is physically removed from the defendant, which reduces the possibility of the defendant initiating casual conversation with the interpreter. In the courtroom, the judge presides over the conduct of the proceedings. He or she maintains order and makes rulings on points of law. The attorney representing the government, which has brought charges against the defendant, sits at a table facing the judge's bench. The defendant and his attorney sit at another table. In a jury trial, the jury decides the facts of a case based on the presentation of evidence and the testimony of witnesses. In a bench trial, there is no jury. It is the judge who decides the facts. Witnesses testify about the facts that are in dispute. They testify from a witness stand which faces both parties. Testimony is part of the permanent record of the proceeding. This record ensures that there can be no doubt about what occurred in the courtroom. The record is made by electronic sound recording or taken down by a court reporter.
Tell us when you were employed, during what period of time?
Díganos cuándo fue que estuvo empleada, durante qué periodo de tiempo.
Desde el marzo hasta septiembre.
From March to September.
Was it last year you worked for Mr. White, from March to September?
¿Fue el año pasado que trabajó para el señor White de marzo a septiembre? Yes.
Sí.
Yes.
And where was it that you worked?
¿Y dónde fue que trabajó?
Tenía una pequeña oficina auxiliar en su casa y a veces me hizo trabajar ahí.
He had a small office at home and sometimes he had me work there.
How often did you work there?
¿Cuán a menudo trabajó allí?
Quizás 1 o 2 veces al mes.
Perhaps once or twice a month.
It is the interpreter's rendition in English at the witness stand that is taken down, not what the witness says in the source language. Judges and juries base their decisions about witnesses' testimony as rendered by a third party, the interpreter. That is why accurate interpretation is so important. In fact, in some cases, the court may also record the interpreter's and defendant's words in the source language, if the judge determines that it's necessary to ensure the rights of the defendant. Another important person in the courtroom is the courtroom deputy, who helps the judge keep things moving smoothly. This person sits below the judge, marks evidence, and administers oaths to witnesses and interpreters.
The United States versus Ying Wan.
The deputy will swear the interpreter.
Please state your name for the record.
Good morning, Your Honor. Bruce Chan, C-H-A-N.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will justly, truly, fairly, and impartially act as an interpreter in the case now before the court?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Now, we're starting this trial today. Motions have been resolved. Ms. Brown, are you ready for the government?
I am, Your Honor.
Mr. Reynolds, are you ready for the defendant, Ying Wan?
Yes, Your Honor.
Once sworn in, the interpreter is an officer of the court.
An interpreter is considered an officer of the court because there is that relationship of an oath that is stated to the court, to the judge, in front of all of the parties. The exact wording can vary from courthouse to courthouse, I believe, but it generally includes the elements of impartiality and accuracy.
Because interpreters must give an accurate rendition of what is being said, they need to sit or stand where it's possible to hear and see the defendant, witnesses, attorneys, and the judge. This will, of course, depend on whether audio equipment is available.
The interpreter really must let the presiding judge know that there is a difficulty in hearing. It affects the performance of the job. We have to make sure that the record is complete and accurate as to the testimony, and you shouldn't feel any shyness about letting the presiding judge know.
For the record, it must be clear whether it is the interpreter speaking or asking a question, or the person whose speech is being interpreted. So when addressing the judge, the interpreter always refers to himself or herself in the third person.
I was driving Fred Smith's car.
Please tell the court how you came to be driving Mr. Smith's car.
Por favor, dígale al tribunal cómo fue que usted terminó conduciendo el carro del señor Smith.
Me lo prestó para poder visitar a mi hermano.
He loaned it to me so I could visit my brother.
And where does your brother live?
¿Y dónde vive su hermano?
En Santa Fe.
In Santa Fe.
Did Mr. Smith know that's where you're going to be driving his car?
Your Honor, the interpreter wasn't able to hear all of counsel's last question. Could he request that it be repeated?